This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 179. Your business will grow only if you do first. Are you a real estate agent who wants to turn your real estate job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan or any plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, I've created a free jumpstart course for you. It's a free plan that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. Freeagentgift.com. It's a what-to-do plan that I wish I had when I first started my career, and I'm happy to give it away to you. Freeagentgift.com. Get your copy. All right. Your business will grow only if you do first. So I have to always tell you what stimulates me to think a certain way when I'm coaching during the week and as themes migrate around our mastermind group, and we have all these top producers trying to figure it out and all the people that are coming to join them in that effort. And you have to keep yourself as a student of all things the head stuff. Self-development. And lately, I've really tuned into the work of Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. Jim is now since passed, but he birthed the likes of Tony Robbins, amongst many others. Just a farm boy from Idaho goes his story, and his wisdom is just so clear. He had a great mentor who passed away very young, 49 years old, a guy by the name of Shope. And there are a lot of little quips and little bites of wisdom that I think are really important. And Jim, having made his entire living later on in life as a self-development expert, he talks a lot about working on yourself harder than anything else. And I've always been a big believer in that. Always. I've always believed that the harder that you work on yourself, the more you understand about what you really want and then how to go about getting it. So that's really the first point here is you must work harder on yourself than your business. And on is a key word there. And this always comes back to the work in this group here that we do in and on your business. What's the difference? And Michael Gerber, in his book, The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth, he makes a big deal of the difference in the two. So when you're working in your business, you're working with a buyer, you're working with a seller, you're showing properties, you're showing your listing, you're doing those types of things, you're putting up signs, etc. So you're actually doing the work of the business. But the truth is, none of us really work on anything. And I guess the best way I can help you work on something is try to get above the whole situation. I talk about it to my clients, my kids, whomever, as macro versus microeconomic. So macroeconomic, I've always envisioned myself as a small business entrepreneur trying to become a big business entrepreneur. I've always imagined myself going back in time and meeting with Henry Ford. I think from a business perspective, my hero, who I never met in business, is Henry Ford. Not that there wouldn't be others as I study more and work more on myself in the context I'm about to discuss here, but I imagine myself going up into an assembly line room that's above, the room that managers go to that look down upon the assembly line as these Ford Model Ts get built. I try to go back in the early days. And as I go up there, I imagine myself up there with Ford, and I'm picking his brain and I'm asking him, well, what are we working on here today? And he might look down at one section where they put the chassis together. He might look down at another where they put the wheels on it and the engine drops in. There are all of these pieces, but really it's the entirety of the assembly line I'm asking about, because that is the essence of Ford and any auto manufacturer. So you have to understand that Ford, at one point in time, is birthed into a world where there are an enormous amount of automobile makers. I mean, I think when you don't do your homework and you don't work on yourself as a manager, you don't historically go back and look, well, what were these people dealing with themselves like we are today? Because not much has changed, by the way. It's just the sophistication of how we do what we do has changed. Machine tools, software, etc. But as you're working on something, you're seeing it holistically, right? You see the whole, A through Z. That's the business. And so that helps you understand that you've been working in certain pieces of it. And a lot of top producers, I have one that I'm working with right now. I just can't even fathom how he hasn't had a heart attack, literally, at this point in time. He's a top producer. He does an enormous amount of business. I don't know how. And I think when I awakened him to the macro, I said, come on, up in the glass room, let's look down at what you do. I think he scared himself because a lot of top producers get working in it so much that they believe that the only way to expand it bigger is more time, and that scares them. So they shrink down. So that's what it sounds like to work on a business. So what does it sound like to work on yourself? And today, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. If you want to see more of my head stuff work, go look at the bonus section podcast, okay? The bonus section podcast is where I peel out all the head stuff and I talk about things that you can do to work on your head stuff, on your self-development, on you. But in this context, I want to keep it in the framework of business, and I want to keep in the framework of what Michael Gerber set up for me, because I think it applies to any business person. So as I look at working on myself in the context of business, that's the key. How do I work on myself in the context of business? Well, Gerber talks about us almost being tripolar, or the necessity to become tripolar, meaning what? What does that mean? That means that many of you, and if not all of you, again, remember, by definition, a real estate agent, for the most part, across the country, is typically, in the majority, by a lot, an independent contractor. Some of you out there listening to this, you might have ended up as employees. Yesterday, I was talking to a couple of agents that have taken on the role. They're licensees, but they are employees that work for a particular team setup. But most of us are independent contractors, okay? And that means we own a business. So holistically, we own a business is a big statement. And then who must we be to run a successful business? Well, Gerber makes an argument. There are 3 personas inside of you that you must work on and become. One is that entrepreneur. What vision strategically for you as the CEO or the chief executive officer of this holistic business, who will you have to become? And once you become the CEO, what will your vision for the growth of this business and the survival of this business, let's just go basic instincts here, what will it have to be looking like? Now, see, a lot of you, as Gerber says, make the mistake to immediately say, well, I just want to sell something. I'm just going to sell something. I hear this all the time from top producers. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just flipping houses. I'm selling stuff. Okay, great. Yeah, that's working in it. And there's really no way out of that, because you get to the point where maybe you're hiring some people, they're being mismanaged, everybody's under stress, and you just continue to work in it as if you have a business. Watch how quickly you don't the minute you step out. Whole thing collapses. That's to top producers. So all of us need to slow down and say, all right, I can't just go do the technical work. So Gerber calls it the technician. For us, let's just call it the salesperson. The person that's responsible for taking a sale A to Z, right? All the way from we find the person, we sell them on using our services, we convince them of that, we move them along to prospect where we're really giving away a lot of our free time and free information. That wins us a client. That client then lists with us and sells with us, or they buy with us and close with us, whatever it might be. And then they go through a closing process where we have to oversee the closing department, and then they become a past client, hopefully a happy one. That's what I mean by the sales machine, A through Z. So a lot of you say, oh, I want that freedom of working for myself. I like that. I like what he's saying about being this independent contractor. So I have that entrepreneurial way about me. And I definitely have that sales way. I know I'm good with people. I know I can help people. So I hear these things all the time. So good. There is some foundational musts that you must have in a business like real estate agency. Okay. You must have those things. So it's good if you do. But the problem is, think about that. We're just so juvenile when we first consider it. And by the way, I'm not calling you juvenile. Let me always start this podcast by saying these are things that I have learned mostly the hard way that I share with you to give you some clarity, to point you in a direction to do your own discovery. But I warn you, heed my advice. There's no reason to smash into walls and to really make some big mistakes that can set you back financially. There's just no reason for all of that. And typically what does that, especially for top producers, and yes, all my guys out there, I know, sexist, right? I'm going to be accused of this, but the testosterone flowing through the blood, nobody wants to listen. And we can't wait to crash into a wall. Again, I'll self-condemn. That's me. Not anymore. Because you get to the point where you say, all right, wait a minute, something's wrong here. I've got to just stop like being a maniac salesperson. And I have to get up here and say, is this really the business I always imagined? When I left the finance business, didn't I imagine a business that largely worked with other people, having new roles? And wasn't I the one that wanted to create these opportunities for other people? Am I not that person for others who uses the vehicle of business to serve? So none of it was happening when I was just doing it and working in the business. So then, because I'm all things self-development, I was reading all about mind systems and health systems, all of these sleep systems, all of that's working on me personally. But what did that have to do with application to business? Not much. So Gerber's context then made me aware something's wrong. He's right. There's something I'm not working on. I'm reading all the books about entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship. I know how to start a business pretty easily. It's not rocket science. I know all that. I know how to continuously try to set my North Star and the vision. I know who I am as the chief executive officer as being different from everybody else. I don't worry what everybody else does. I get that. I'm pretty darn good at this sales thing. I'm realizing that I have to use different implements, but I'm not working at all on something. Something's missing because the company's not growing. I'm not feeling that leverage. I'm certainly not creating more opportunities for people, which then serves more buyers and sellers. And voila, there it is in the middle of entrepreneur and sales technician, manager. I know, everybody listening just headed for the hills. Let's run away. Oh no, not management. See, because most of us that have an entrepreneurial spirit to not be told what to do and we want to run our own business and we know we can sell, quote unquote, we just ignore working on becoming that person. And that's the second point here. You must understand the importance of developing a manager's brain. I mean, look, folks, you don't know a big business that's good that doesn't have excellent management. You don't know one. You don't know one at all. So, and if you want proof and you want to go looking for one of the greatest things about the capitalistic system that we live in the United States is that we have this public marketplace, the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the American Stock Exchange. I mean, we have these marketplaces that are public. And we have companies that have gone public. And as part of going public as a company, you have to lay bare to the world what's going on. So that accounting of your business and what's happening in it and how well you're managing it is laid bare to the world. And so the great investors like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who I am just wildly like a big fan of, especially now later in life. Here they are, 89 and 98 years old, still completely lucid, still completely students of the game. And that's what they do. They sit there and study and search and look for great managers. They look for people who are doing an extraordinary job in a particular industry where the profit margin is large, the management has been so good that they've been able to put almost up these protective walls and make it this quote unquote franchisable, protectable way of doing business. And that's really, I mean, it's out there in plain sight that these great companies that were once small companies, just because you have a good idea doesn't mean you become a great big company, right? You have to develop the management brain for the company. And when it's a small business like real estate agency, it's on you, folks. It's us. And I will tell you, my mastermind group would probably tell you that when I'm the hardest on them is when I think they're getting lazy and not working on the development of this piece of the brain, because it's work. On Thursdays, we do our quote unquote mastermind call, where what we do is we work on becoming managers. We have quiet time for an hour to an hour and a half where we have to sit there and behave like managers. And that leads to the next point. Well, what does that mean? What does that even mean? I mean, great, you'll buy, entrepreneurs, the vision, management is developing all these, the way that the business works, and sales is doing the work in it, right? All of that, okay? And I'm simplifying this, obviously. But the third point is here, the manager must be disciplined. So as you're working on becoming this, you have to realize that managers are disciplined in the way that they work on systems, the way that they build out systems. When you really look at really good management in the real estate agency business, you will find somebody who is disciplined and never endingly working on their business systems. So holistically, what does that whole A through Z assembly line, Henry Ford style business look like if it's all systematized? Of course, you don't know when you're beginning, but you can have an idea and you can cheat. Go watch the way that some of these other businesses work. You can actually get a video of a live assembly line, and you can watch a car be built down the line. You can see other products be manufactured. A lot of things can be watched. And quite frankly, I know it's a little gruesome for all my vegetarians out there, but Henry Ford took his whole team to the slaughterhouses of Chicago and watched how they worked and how their assembly line worked, and he found amazing things there about specialized workers who never moved from a spot. Instead, the product was moved to them and they did their piece of manufacturing, right? And that's the way that it worked. And I'll guarantee you today, you see a lot more machine tools. So whatever is being manufactured, the evolution over time for an industry even, not just a company, is this managed process that is based on systems. And if there can be technology that replaces humans so the human actually elevates, yes, sometimes the hazard is the human gets replaced and they're no longer needed. That's why the skilled worker is required. That's why you should, if you're young or you have kids and you're listening to this podcast, you want to teach your kids to understand the importance of seeing where technology is going in an industry within which they're interested in participating so that they become the skilled worker. The creative skilled worker is the best one. Those that can imagine the new systems and develop them, well, then that's the best. So the manager must be disciplined to work on those systems. And that's what we do in our mastermind on Thursdays. We work on them. And you'd be shocked. It's not like it's rocket science. Yes, some of it is. I work on my website system. I got so far into that system, I founded a company called Realty Websites with my partner who's in Belgium, who's a wonderful coder. And together, I say I need this part of the technology systematized. He listens and develops it. And we're in that sort of think tank mode still with Realty Websites where my clients are beginning to use it. We're beginning to test it. We're beginning to see how it works out there in the real world. So that's an example. How about all the telemarketing systems, which are just scripts that are being read by human beings? Those systems are precise. I mean, this week alone, we spent an hour just really finite words in how we would tell somebody, we would call them back to make sure they got the very systematic way that we send out information. I could go on and on and on. You must be disciplined to indulge in that work. And then lastly here, you must see how growing all of you affects all of your business growth. And what do I mean by that? This is sort of just a wrap up with my work over at the bonus section where I look at these systems. You must have a system for health in a macro way. Okay. So the big way, health is everything. And clearly mental health is everything. So what affects mental health is clearly sleep. You've got to have sleep. Second, because the body has to restore itself. Because how are you going to become a great manager who requires all these calories to be burnt and you don't have sleep and you're deprived and you think you're going to focus on anything? No good. If you're not sleeping well, most likely it's because you're not eating well. Something's going wrong with the way that you eat. The diet in the world in processed foods is so unbelievably scary that we'll decry all of these other diseases that we see from the outside, but yet we won't stop putting diseased foods in our mouths. We're looking at these chemicals and we're wondering why something's wrong with us. We're overdosing on Western medicines, and you think the body can get itself prepared and slow down to sleep when that's what you put in? And of course, the triumvirate includes exercise. I don't care if you walk out the door and walk around your house in a one day at a time until it's a couple loops and it's 3, and then you can walk down the street. You've got to exercise. So holistically working on yourself is everything, because that allows you to come in and now focus on becoming a more focused entrepreneur, making room for the growth of this baby in your head. This manager is just a baby. I mean, right. So what are you going to do to feed that baby, right? What are you going to do to make sure that the baby gets some sleep? What are you going to do to make sure that baby gets some exercise? So that's all growing, so that when that baby arrives at work, it's not giving up so easily. It's able to build a new discipline, persevere, and grow. Okay, so let me summarize the key points here again. Your business will only grow if you do first. Number 1, you must work harder on yourself than your business. 2, you must understand the importance of developing a manager's brain. 3, the manager then must be disciplined to work on systems, which is hard work. And lastly, you must see growing all of you physically, mentally, emotionally affects all of your business growth, because you can't get in there and become these things without being healthy of mind and body. I'll summarize it this way today. Too many real estate agents believe that the success of their business, or lack thereof, is predicated on external circumstances within which they find themselves. They believe incorrectly that a certain brokerage or a particular market direction is why their business is in the state it's in. The truth is, our business is a direct reflection, a very direct reflection of how hard we are working on ourselves. The bigger the version of ourselves that we're able to push towards, the greater and more resilient our business will be. Okay, now remember, you can take immediate action and get started in the right direction with our free, simple business plan that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. Freeagentgift.com. It's the what to do framework for a business plan, okay? Next, also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. That way you're always getting it, okay? From time to time, we also now are broadcasting our live telemarketing training calls on Facebook or YouTube every Friday. So you can go over there, and we give away some free goodies from time to time over there. And remember, just turn on those page and channel notifications so that in addition to the podcast, you see when we upload videos. We're going to start to change this up a little bit. I'm going to go over to YouTube, get very serious about getting some real quick videos out there, and maybe bring in some live reaction to marketplace stuff, how it affects real estate. We're going to take the Realty classroom this year to another level. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would share our content with other real estate agents just like you so that they get the help that they need. But remember, I sign off the same way every single time. Remember this, nobody's coming for you. I mean, nobody. Absolutely nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your own business, and of course, this time on your management brain, and we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks again.